Thona Teasey. A jug of water, for a woman believing in the Buddha can exchange for glory in heaven. In Buddhism, one day the Buddha traveled to the realm of Kosal, with 500 monks, and he went to rest in a dungeon to get rid of the evil views of the Brahmins in the dungeon. The Brahmins heard that the Buddha and the monks were coming to the other side of the river to cross into the river. The Brahmin elders announced to the devotees that we should not be polite to anything. On the other hand, we all had to pull the boat out of the harbor and dismantle the bridge, remove the inn, and dismantle all the thatch. If someone goes politely and gives something to a monk, he must be sentenced to death. The Buddha knew of the Brahmin's plight, so he took the 500 monks and flew across the river to the center of the district, where he sat down under a tree near a well. At that time, there was a slave girl, who was a slave of a Brahmin family in that time. Turning the pot to fetch water from the well, he saw that God has a part, and his heart became clear. She thinks that this time is very hot. The Buddha and all the monks may be very thirsty and come to stay here. I had to fetch a jug of water and give it to him. But the Brahmin elder told the authorities that if anyone went politely, he would give everything to the monk, and this monk would be sentenced to death. She thought so and walked past to fetch water. When she returned, her generosity became more and more. Then she thought, well, I met such a wonderful field, and I should give alms, even if it is killed or prosecuted. Which, she also threw a pot into the center of the monk, took a pot of water to offer to the Buddha. The Buddha accepted with both hands. Gesturing to her that he needed the water, he poured the water over her face, and boiled it in front of her. By the power of the Buddha, the water in the pot was still full, so he gave the pot to the other 500 monks. The pot was still full. Thona Teasey saw something very strange, so the purity in the Buddha became more and more complete. When the 500 monks were satisfied, the Buddha gave the jug back to Thona Teasey, and she accepted the jug and returned to her home to say goodbye. In that order, the Brahmins grabbed her, beat her, and gradually turned her back on the Brahmins, the masters. The officers beat her even more until she died at that time. As for the Buddha, when Thona Teasey left, he called Ananda to take his bowl to fetch water from the well. Ananda did not dare to go because he was afraid the Brahmins would kill him. He used it 3 times. Ananda did not dare to argue, so he took the urn to the well. Just reached the mouth of the well. Water rushed out of the well into the floodplain from the flooded village of Thona district. But there was no flood where the Buddha and the monks were. The Brahmins, seeing this great event, were so frightened that they ran to apologize to the Buddha, offered themselves as devotees, took the Priyaratnatre as their reliance on life, and the water disappeared in that moment. Thona Teasey, who was beaten to death by the Brahmins, was born in heaven. There is a beautiful body, radiant from the body, spreading in all directions. There are 1,000 fairies in the golden palace, shaped like a boat, swaying on the magic water in a great pond. At the mouth of the pond, there are palm trees growing around. In the pond, there are lotus trees growing, flowering, fruiting, fragrant. The lotus has 5 colors. Some are gold, the leaves are pearls, the flowers are silver, and the fruit is pomegranate. Some trees are pomegranates. The leaves are silver, the flowers are jewels, and the fruits are golden, growing around the temple. At that time, she thought about her former nation and realized that I, who was born as a goddess, was so rich in magic because of a jug of water that I gave to the Buddha in Thona. Now, the Buddha stays there, nowhere to go, so should go and fulfill my wealth even more. With that in mind, she came down immediately, and the temple floated, swearing on the earth in the presence of the Buddha. The goddess brought 1,000 entourage from the temple go to worship the Buddha as a teacher. At that time, all the Brahmins who were sitting before the presiding deity were astonished and amazed. The Buddha asked the goddess so that all the Brahmins would know at that time, "Where are you from?" The goddess, who is always full of supernatural light, "What did you celebrate in your previous birth?" The female angel said, "Buddha, I am from heaven. Yesterday, I, in Thona district, brought him a jug of water. When I returned home, the Brahmins who were sitting around started beating me, and gradually the Brahmins, my masters, beat me to death." Then she described her heavenly perfection. When finished, the Buddha manifests the Dharma, explaining the Four Noble Truths. Theta also achieved her goal at that time. Just worship the goodbye God back to heaven. The Brahmins in Thona also had a clear understanding of Buddhism at that time.